Hi everyone. Today we will have a Tableau desktop workshop, the intermediate session. Last week we went through the introductory, the beginner session. We found out how to import the data, create some visualization, and at the end even create a simple dashboard from our visualizations. In this session, first we will try to use a live data, which means that we don't need to download any file into your machine and then be able to connect the Tableau to that live data server and create the visualization based on that. After that, we will try to jump into more advanced options of the Tableau desktop, like the creating subsets of your data, doing some advanced table calculation in Tableau desktop, creating a statistics and forecasting by using the Tableau, and at the end, adding some more actions or customizing the dashboard, and also creating the stories, which means that we could combine different dashboards into a single story. And at the end, the homework will be provided. So that's the outline of this workshop today. And similar to what we had last week, you need to have the Tableau desktop installed in your computer. So if you don't have it, you can just download the trial version. And also Clemson also has a license that gives you a full access to the up to 1 year. And the data that we will use here for the workshop today is the one that we used last week for the COVID-19 data set of the South Carolina. So if you downloaded that data set, you don't need to download it again. But if you don't download it, if you don't have it, you can just download it here right now. So first, I'm going to put the link of this website for following the workshop material into the chat. And also, this is the link to download the data set. So if you have that sccounties.csv file from last week, so that's enough. You don't need to download it again. But if you don't have that file, you can just download it from this link I just put into the chat. So I would wait a minute to make sure everyone has the data and also the software. And I would happy to answer if you have any question or comments. So I would wait a minute and then we will start for the first section of this workshop. Okay, so if you download the data set and also you have the Tableau desktop installed in your computer, so that should be good to start the first section of this workshop, which we will try to connect the Tableau desktop into a live data server by using the web connector. The purpose here is to connect the Tableau desktop to a live data server, which means that every time the data would be changed, you can just refresh your visualization, and that also would reflect on your visualization based on the change in the data that you have. The thing is that we use the Tableau desktop here. So every time the data changes, you need to update it, update your visualization, for example, the dashboard that you created at the end manually. For example, it means that it's not a real-time visualization. It's not like that every time the data is changed in the real time, your visualization would be updated automatically, because that needs Tableau server instead of Tableau desktop, but we don't have the license of Tableau server in Clemson University. So that's also gives us some advantage of be able to connect to a live data server. But for updating the visualization, it needs to be done manually, and you need to refresh your visualization and then publish the final dashboard again. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the dashboard of the COVID-19 that we have in Clemson University. It's created again with the Tableau desktop, but you can see that it just every a couple of days it just updated based on the new data that they got from their data server. So let me see. Yes, this dashboard is created with Tableau desktop. You see that because if it was created with the Tableau server, there was no Tableau logo here, but it's created with Tableau desktop, and you see that it just updated. For example, a couple of days ago, and then it would just update it on June 11th again. So every time the data changes, you need to just refresh your visualization, refresh your dashboard, and then publish it again. But for a real time, we need a Tableau server, which unfortunately we don't have the license for that. So the purpose here is to connect the Tableau desktop to a live data server. For that, we need to have a web data connector that to be able to just fetch the data online. The data that we want to use here as a live data is a COVID-19 data set from New York Times repository. It would be updated every day. So we need to have a web data connector to be able to import or fetch that data. I created a web data connector for this purpose. It just beyond what we provide in this workshop because it needs some JavaScript programming to create that web data connector. But you can just use the final web data connector and be able to fetch your data. So I'm going to put the link of the web data connector that I created into the chat, and you should be able to use that. But if you want to know what's behind this web data connector, it's created with the JavaScript programming. So if you click on that link, you should be able to see this web data connector here that just asks you to just put any link of any CSV file, and it would just import that CSV file into Tableau desktop. So in order to use that web data connector that we saw here, we need to go to the Tableau. So that's the interface of the Tableau that we are familiar with that from the last week. If you click on the to a server to more, under the to server option, click on more, and look for web data connector. It's the web data connector that I want to use, so click on that. Just ask me to enter my web data connector URL here. So that's the URL of my web data connector that I have. You can just copy paste it from the chat. I just put it in the chat. And click enter, it would just open this page here and just ask me to put the link for that data. The link to the file that is going to be fetched from the New York Times repository is here. The thing is that you don't need to put HTTP or HTTPS at the beginning of this location. So that's the location of that data. But if I want to just see what's inside that file, I could just see that it's just a file that you could just see in any browser. But the thing is that I don't need to.
Hello, sorry.
Sorry.
After coming from to a server, then you chose more, then where did you go again?
Let me just close this. Just go to the to a server more and search for web here. You can just search for
web. Yeah.
click on Web Data Connector,
Okay.
and copy paste that link I put in the chat, this link here,
Okay, fine.
and put it here, and click on enter. You should just see this page here. Does it work fine?
So just a question to clarify, we need to do like this in like 2 steps, because if we just had put the other link of the CSV directly on the web data connector, it wouldn't work. Is that correct?
Yes, because that HTTP or HTTPS is built in that JavaScript behind this web data connector. That's the way that it's designed, but it's not necessary. Just you can just I can just remove that part that just, for example, take account for the HTTP or HTTPS, and then you can just copy and paste the full link with the HTTP or HTTPS. So it's just the way it's designed. Yeah.
Oh, you mean like if I didn't put the HTTPS or HTTP, I could just paste the CSV link?
Not with this
No.
design right now, but if I want to just make it work with the full link of the HTTP and HTTPS, that's possible. But I need to change the JavaScript behind this web data connector.
Okay, so for example, if we want to do another project later and we want to use a CSV data, we would need to go to this link there that you're open right now and put the CSV URL over there. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. The thing is that this web data connector works with any CSV file.
Okay.
As long as it's online, you can just use this web data connector, but it could be more customized more. For example, let's say maybe you want to just fetch Excel sheet online. It wouldn't work with the Excel sheets online. So you need to just maybe create another web data connector that works with the Excel sheets. And also the thing is that the Tableau has some predefined web data connector for different type of servers. For example, fetching data from Google Sheets, Google Drive, or other type of the data servers. Maybe that's also another thing that you could use. But the thing that we are using here as a web data connector is a customized data connector that I created myself. So, but you can just use the ones that are provided with Tableau. But Tableau doesn't have anything on the fly for fetching the CSV file. So that's the reason why I created one for fetching any CSV file.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I would just put the location of the CSV file again into the chat. I would copy paste it here into the chat. That's the one you need to copy paste. And I'm just copy paste it here and click on get CSV file, just get CSV data. And if it's successful, you should come here without any error. And if you click on update, you should be able to see the data, actual data that we have. It's a kind of big data, but just loading. So yeah, so that's it. That's the data. So if it's successful, you should be able to see the data, and then similar to what we had last week or the one that we are going to go through this week, you should be able to go to the sheet one and be able to create the visualizations. So any problem, so that's the one that we had similar to what we have last week. So you should be able to do all the visualization that we had last week and the ones that we are going to go through this week to just use it on this live data server. Any question, any error, or any issue that you might encounter with that web data connector? It's a kind of big data. If it's just loading, it means that it needs a little bit more time. But for the rest of this workshop, we are going to back to our file that we downloaded and use a local file as our data set for creating the visualization in this workshop for the rest of this workshop. So if you want, if you didn't see any error, that should be fine, but you can just cancel it. So that's up to you. You can just cancel it or just leave it. And also for the rest of this workshop, we will go through that file that we had from the last week for creating the visualization. That was just one example of how to connect the Tableau desktop into a live data server. Any other question? Any other comment before jumping into the next section? Okay, I will keep this as it is and open a new Tableau. And as I said, we want to use a file for the rest of this workshop. So I'm going to open a text file and find this SC counties file. So I would use this data set for the rest of this workshop. Yes, that's a big data set. And because it's just connected online, it might be a little slow here if you want to just work with that. So we prefer to work with a locally downloaded file that would be much faster. We would work with that South Carolina COVID-19 data set that you downloaded last week or this week from that link. So yeah. Okay, all right. The first, the section that we have here is about defining subsets of data. Sometimes we have a big data set and we want to create subsets and be able to modify that subsets. Subsets means that be able to filter some of the interesting points in your data set and visualize it individually or compare it with the rest of the data set. So that's the logic behind the subsets that we have in the Tableau desktop. Generally, there are two different type of sets or subsets in the Tableau desktop, which is called the dynamic subsets and fixed subsets. Dynamics are the ones that could change when the underlying data changes. And the dynamic sets can only just be used for a single dimension, which means that you can just create a subset based on one dimension that you have in your data set. But the fixed subsets cannot be changed when the data is changed. And it could just create it based on multiple dimensions. So we will go through each of them to see how we could create the dynamic subsets or the fixed subsets. So in order to create if we go to the sheet 1, in order to create a subsets, dynamic subsets, we need to just choose which measure that we want to use for creating that subset. That's the reason why it said that the dynamic subsets are just based on one measure or one variable or one column that you have in your data set. Here, I want to just create a subset of the counties here. So I'm going to right-click on the county and go to the create and create a choose a set. First, you need to define a name for your set. For example, let's say I want to just choose the upstate counties here. That's the name of the one I choose. And then I'm going to choose these counties here. If it's going to be excluded, it's just similar to what we had for the filter last week. If you remember the filter, it was just the same options. You had control over excluding the ones that you choose, or just include the one that you choose, or click on the all options from the list that you have, or click on the none, which means that it would just discard all the ones that I just checked here. Or even you were able to do the filtering or creating the set with some conditions that we saw last week. For example, creating the filter or the set with any field that we have in our data set, and based on some, for example, let's say I want to choose the counties that their average of the cases is greater than any defined number, or any type of the formula that I want to just use here. It's just the same thing that we had for the filters. Or also we had the same thing for the filters to, for example, choose the top 10 or top 5 or whatever top based on some different fields or the variables that we have in our data set, or use a formula for creating that top 10 or top 5. So it's just the same setup as the filter, but it just named set. So what's the difference between the filter and set? The thing is that by creating the set, you are able to compare your subset with the rest of the data. The thing that we had for the filter was that it was just filtered our data, but we didn't have any option to compare it with the ones that we just filter out. You just filter your data, but the subset or creating a set would do more for you. You just filter your data, and additionally, you are able to compare it with the ones that are just filtered out. So that's the difference between the creating a set or a filter. So they are basically very similar, or we can just say they are the same based on the definition of how you define or the options that are available here for creating the set. But that's the one more advantage of the creating a set, that you are able to compare the ones that you filtered and the ones that are filtered out together to see how that's changed. So that's the difference between the filter and the set here. So if I click on the OK here, it would create a set for me here. You can have multiple sets, and later on we will see that how we could combine different sets together. So we saw that how to create that, or even use different conditions for that. And we want to create a visualization for average of cases similar to what we had before. And I could drag and drop the set that I created, upstate counties, into mark here. And choose a color for in and out, which means that the in is the ones that are in my in the subset that I created, but the out is are the ones that are filtered out. So you see that that's a difference between the filtering or creating a subset, that you are able to compare the ones that are in your data set or the ones that are filtered out. There are some options. You can just show the subset in two different modes. Right now, it's in the show in and out of set, which means that it would just aggregate the ones that are in the subset and the ones that are filtered out, and it would just create these two line plots for me. But I'm able to see the members of the subset as well. So if I just click on the show members in set, that would just show the values for the ones that are in the subset. So let's just, yeah, sorry for just flipping the week date and the average cases. So that these are the ones that are in the subset that I have to show the members only. But you can just have two different modes, show the members or just in the in and out type that just filter out the ones that are not in your subset or the ones that are in your subsets. Any question, any problem with creating the subset, or any question that you have from the subset, creating subsets? Okay. So the fixed, okay, go ahead.
I saw that we can click show set and show filter. If we, will that appear if we create a dashboard? Will that be something interactive that people can
Yes.
click and?
Yeah, exactly. That's the one that we are wanted to go through in the action of the dashboard at the end of this workshop. Any show set, show filter, or show highlighter is a different action that you can just give access to the user to customize your subset, filter, or highlighter, which means that I created this subset, but I give the user ability to customize it later on in the dashboard.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And just following up on that question, so if we didn't put that, we would just show this, what we have, right? But we wouldn't give the user the option of customizing, right?
Right, yeah, yeah. It's up to you if you want to just give the user ability to customize it, or if you want to just make it solid and just say the user is only able to see the ones that are here. It's not possible to see other sets or customize your sets. So it's up to you if you want to just give the user ability or just hide the subsets that you created here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comment here? The fixed subsets is the ones that you choose the data points based on the ones that you want to have in your set interactively. similar to what we have here. So the fixed subsets are the ones that you choose interactively. For example, by just interactively choose these points and choose to keep them or exclude them. So if I click on, I could create a set or just click on keep only or exclude, or even I could just add the points that I created here to the previous subsets that I created. So if it's possible to add it to the upstate counties subset that I created previously. And I could create different subsets or just keep them. So I would just create this one here for me as a subset. Or if I just want to for example, give a name to them, I'm able to create a different subset and just choose a name for them, for example, data points or whatever. Or even if you want to just exclude them, you have the option here. So these are the data points that totally I just chose 26 data points, and I'm able to just create a subset from that. So that's the one that we call it fixed subsets, which means that even if my data is updated, let's say maybe some other data points are added to this data set. So I have some other data points, but because I just chose these specific 26 data points, it would just remain the same if even the underlying data would be changed later on. So I just chose these 26 data points specifically. So that's my fixed subset here. And it would not be changed later on. But the ones that I created with, for example, for the upstate counties, let's say if, for example, the underlying data, if it changed, for example, we have some other data points, our visualization would be changed. For example, if we have some other data points later on for the other dates in the right side, you would have some other data points added to this subset. It's just the one that I just selected interactively here. It's not like I had a specific purpose to choose them. It was just for the sake of example here. But if you know, for example, you want to choose any specific data points based on a qualitative condition that you saw in your data, for example, or visualization, you are able to, for example, select these data points. But if you're asking that why I chose those 26, it was just for the sake of example here. Any other question? Any other comment?
So if I wanted to choose points that were not necessarily in the same like rectangle, what I mean is like if I want to choose some points at the end and some in the beginning, and I want to group them together, you
are able.
Okay.
You need to just hold the control. Here I just chose one data point at the beginning, and I'm going to choose this one at the the end and at the beginning. You can just hold the control and choose whatever you want and just add them. For example, I want to choose this one, this guy's here, and I'm able to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is that it's interactive. In comparison to what we have before for the upstate counties, you choose from a list, or you have a condition, or you are looking for top 5, top 10. You have more quantitative control over your subset. But here it's just interactive. But it could be still useful for some visualization that you know which points to look for. So you want to just, for example, let's say you know to look for this peak here, you can choose the peaks, for example, in some points, and then create a subset from your data set. So it just based on the purpose of your visualization, purpose of creating that subset, and the insight you have from your data.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Any other comment? Okay, so I'm going to create the subset. I just randomly pick points, and I'm going to create a subset with that. Create set and call it data points. Okay, so I have that subset here. And again, similar to what we have for the upstate, again, I'm able to visualize it in the in and out. It just gives you the exact same options for the in and out, or just show the members that I have here. But you see that you can't give the user ability to show the subset, to just give the user ability to customize your fixed subset, because it's just fixed and you just chose that. So the user don't have any ability to change that. So I'm going to remove these guys as well here. Yeah, so I have two subsets here, but the thing is that if I have multiple subsets, I'm able to combine them, so in different ways. So if I just hold the control and choose these two subset that I created and click on this triangle here, there is an option to create combined sets. So if I click on the create combined set, I can choose a name for my set. And the first set is the data points, and the other one is the upstate counties. So, and I have different options to combine here. Similar, if you remember, we had the join option in the data prep, Tableau prep. So you were able to join two different data sets or two different type of the data that you created in different ways. It's similar to what we have for the join, but here is just for the set that we created. So I'm able to just merge all the data points in both subset sets that I created. It's just the first option. Take the intersection of the sets that I created, or the members that are shared between these two sets, or just keep the one that are not in the other one. So accept the shared members in both subsets that I have. So these are the options that are available for creating a combined sets. But because I know that, for example, the data points itself is a subset of the upstate counties. If I just, for example, choose the ones that are only in the intersection, I would just give back the data points, because the data point set is a subset of the upstate counties itself. So if I click on the OK, and again, bring that, I have that, and again, I have the option to just visualize it in the in and out mode, or in the different one, and you see that I just recovered the data points because the data points were a subset of the upstate counties itself. So that's the reason why I see the exact one from the data points, even in my combine. But I could just edit that and maybe just change that. It would just show me an empty one, because nothing could be in the data set that is not in the upstate. So that's the reason why it's empty. Or the other one, it just exclude the ones that are in the data set, data points subset. You see that the points that I chose here are excluded. They are empty here. So that's the combining two different type of subsets that you created. It doesn't matter if one is dynamic and the other one is fixed, still you are able to combine them. So if you can have even multiple ones, so you can combine them one by one. Any question about combining different subsets together? Any comment, any issue that you might encounter with creating or combining the subsets before jumping into the into the next section? So that was about combining different sets. So we learned about the dynamic, fixed, and combining different sets. So before jumping into the next section, if you have any question, feel free to put in the chat or ask here.
I just was trying to understand. So when we have the combined set, and for example, we have just the upstate except share members, for example, then the plot that we have, does it like combine in the sense of like sums the data points from, is that what happens?
When it says that the all members in both sets, it means that it just stack all the data points that are in both sets together, just merge them. And it doesn't remove the duplicates. Merge means that still you have the duplicates.
So we're basically counting the same, the ones that are in common, we're counting twice.
The ones that are shared is just the one, it's not duplicated because the shared, the data points that are shared between the upstate counties and data points are just the ones that are in the data points. But if you just choose the first option, which means that all members in both sets, it doesn't do anything. It just stack all the data points on top of each other. And you get some duplicated because you have the same data points in the upstate counties as the ones that are in the data points in the that subset. Because the way I created the data point subset is I just chose one data point, some data points that are in the upstate counties. So that's the reason why you got duplicate. But if you don't, if it was created in another way that the data point subset was not itself a subset of the upstate counties, you didn't have any duplicate necessarily. Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to think about an example that this could be handy or, useful or used. Do you know something?
Yes, for example, for combining the first one to just merge or just stack them together. Maybe you want to just, for example, not like this, I created a fixed subset. You just, again, for example, create another subset of the counties or any other type of the measures that you have here and be able to just stack them together or just, for example, find which data points are shared between these two subsets, because maybe you have two different type of the measures that you want to create a subset and be able to just take the shared data points between those two subsets. So that's could be a general application of creating a combined subset.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other question, comment about the dynamic fixed set and the combined set that we created here? I'm going to remove this. Okay, so in this section, we will jump into doing some advanced table calculations. We had the similar thing in the Tableau prep when we tried to create moving averages, weekly, bi-weekly, 10-day moving averages. It just kind of repeated here. If you had that from the Tableau prep, you should be familiar with that. It's not something really difficult. It's just the same thing as we had from the Tableau prep section for creating the moving averages. But here still we are able to use the same functionalities from that Tableau prep, which has a similar syntax to SQL, be able to create different type of the variables or fields in our data set. So the idea is here to use some of these customized functions to create the moving averages similar to what we had in the Tableau prep. So the idea was to create the weekly, bi-weekly, and 10 days moving averages. The first one we had was to, in order to do the table calculation, similar to what we saw last week, you can just right click here and create a calculated field and choose a name for your field, which I'm going to call it weekly or weekly date. And here, data truncation, as we saw in the Tableau prep, it would just truncate my date field into weekly chunks, and the first day of the week is considered Monday. So that's the syntax exactly we had from Tableau prep. So click OK, we'll just create that. And instead of using the date, I'm able to use this parameter here. For the weekly date. Exact similar thing we had before for the bi-weekly or the 10 days. So I'm going to create those bi-weekly and 10 days as well. The idea again was here to see if it's in the it's possible to just truncate the data into 14 days and 2 weeks, be able to just make them similar. So that's the idea, was to just create the biweekly, and similar thing we had for the ones for the 10 days. One thing you might notice here is that the data type is find automatically here as date and time, but I want to just make it date. So I'm going to change to the date. We had the same thing for in the Tableau prep as well again. And for the 10 days, again, I'm going to create the 10 days. Date, again, the idea was to just change the date into an integer number and be able to see if it's modulo 10 or not. If it's the remainder of its division over 10 is 0, I would just take that. And if it's not, I would just shift it to the 10 days ago to just create a 10 days. Okay, so you mean that you are not able to right click here? In order to create a calculated field, you need to right click here and choose the create calculated field, and then be able to choose any name, for example, 2 or whatever, and be able to, for example, copy and paste the first one that we had here. And the calculation, make sure that the calculation is valid, which means that the syntax is correct. Are you able to open this editor here to write any formula? It does it show any error? Okay. Yeah, sometimes it happens. Yeah. Okay. If you have any further issue, just let me know. Yeah. But it should just work this way to just create on the click on the create calculated field, choose the name, and just put your formula here. But if it doesn't work, maybe just restarting that might help. Any other issue or the list of the full list of the functions that are available in Tableau in order, for example, with some of the description and a simple example for each one is provided in the official Tableau documentation. So you have the list of all the functions that are available in Tableau based on their name, and it just sorted alphabetically. So you should be able to find that here, or if you are looking for any specific functionality here, you see that the functions that works on numbers, strings, date functions, type conversion, logical functions, aggregated functions, or different type of the functions. So you should be able to find that here. So I'm going to put this link into the chat. That's a good reference for finding a new function or any functionality that you are looking for in the Tableau and be able to see what's the syntax of doing something in the Tableau desktop. So that's the documentation of the list of the tables, the list of the functions that we have in Tableau. We created that 10 days average with some customized logic to see if we convert a date into a integer number, and if the remainder of that, the division of that integer number over 10 is a 0, we just keep that, or if it's not, we shift it to the 10 days ago. But there is a customized function for doing that, for creating a window average instead of using that customized formula. If it's possible to just maybe replace this with the window average. Window average means that you just take the average in a window that you chose here. For example, let's say you want to take the average each 10 data points, which means that it's a 10 days moving average, or 7 days or 14 days, or any other type of the window average that you have. Or you can have, for example, window summation, window maximum, or any other type of the aggregation function that we have. And here I have the cases that I want to just take the average. And because it's just 10 days, I'm saying that take the average 10 data points before the ones that I'm standing and until the one that I'm standing. But I could just replace it. It's just a matter of if you want to just exclude the ones that are at the beginning of your data points for taking the average, or at the end of the plot that you want to just exclude them for taking the average. Because if it's a 10 days average, of course, if you want to just, for example, start from the beginning of the data points and go to the 10 days or 10 following data points, you can do it for the end data point that you have here. For example, for this data point that you have here, because you don't have 10 data points more, because nothing is in the right side of this data point. But if you just, I want to just take the 10 days average by, for example, take this point and take the average over 10 days before that, I'm going to exclude this point because there is no 10 data points before the starting point. So it's just based on what you want to exclude from your average here. So that's another syntax of creating this moving average by using the window functions. You have window average, window summation, window maximum that just takes the, instead of moving average, just takes the moving maximum, moving summation, or other window type functions here. But I'm going to stick to the formula that I had before. Any other question related to this functions creating these moving averages before jumping into the next section here? Okay. Another useful thing that we could create, which is similar to creating calculated field, but it's different, is parameters. Creating the parameters are used to customize the user experience. For example, you can just give the user ability to change some customized parameter and change your visualization based on the underlying conditions that you put into your visualization. So the parameters are a way that we could just give the user ability to customize the dashboards or the stories that we have. So the idea here is that in this example, we could just give the user ability to jump or change the type of the moving averages, because we had 3 types of the moving averages: weekly, bi-weekly, or 10 days. So I'm going to give the user ability to jump to change that. It means that the user have the option to see the weekly, bi-weekly, or 10 days, whenever he or she wants to just see that. For example, it just could just customizably could just change that moving average type. So that's the job for the creating the parameters. So I'm going to create a parameter here. Just choose a create parameter. You can just again right click here and choose a create parameter. You need to define a name for your create parameter. Here I'm going to choose moving average, averages type, because that's the purpose of this creating this parameter. The type of this parameter is a string, because I want to just put the user ability to choose, for example, weekly, bi-weekly, or 10 days. So these are the 3 different strings or name that I want to just have here. I could just put a customized value here. For example, let's say the default value of this parameter is what? For example, if the user still didn't choose anything for the moving average type, by default, it should just show the weekly, for example. So that could be just the value for the current value. Or if I could just click on the list here and list the values that I want to just give the user ability to choose from. So here I'm going to put weekly, bi-weekly, and 10 days. So user have these 3 different options. And I need to click OK. So that would create my parameter here. Or if you want to just give, for example, the user the ability to choose from a measure or a column that you have in your data, you can just add values from the counties, state, or upstate counties. It just shows these 3 different sets or the measures that I have in my data, because I chose the data type as a string. So these are the only ones that are that have the string data type. But if I just, for example, change it to float, it would just show me the cases, this, and FIPS. So that's the reason why I have those ones. So again, I'm going to create that. Weekly, and 10 days. And click OK. So any parameter that you create would show up here in the parameters section. And the data type is a string, as you saw here. You are able to edit that whenever you want. And the show parameter is similar to what we would have for the subsets. Later on, we could give the user ability to customize the parameters later on in the dashboard. So still, I'm just going to keep that here. And now, in order to use my parameter I created here, I need to create a new data field or new table field here, be able to give the user the ability actually, because I just created the parameter, but it's not connected to the date because I just, here I created 3 different type of the dates, bi-weekly date, 10 days and weekly dates. But now it's time to just combine them in a single field and be able to give the user ability to choose based on this parameter I created here. So I need to create a new calculated field. If I right click here, create a calculated field. So I'm just going to name it moving average date. And that's the syntax of the formula I want to just put here, which I'm going to describe it a little bit. These are the ones that I need to change. Yeah. Okay. So if you're familiar with some basic programming or some basic aspect of the, instead of using the if conditions, you can just use the case. The syntax here says that take the moving average type parameter. So that's the name of the parameter that I created, and see if it's equal to weekly, then return weekly date. If it's equal to the bi-weekly, return bi-weekly date. If it's equal to 10 days, return 10 days date. And if it's equal to none, just return the date here. So you can just think of it as if conditions, just created in this way by using the case. So that's more readable if you use the case instead of the if conditions here. So based on the what is the value of this parameter, it would just return different fields for me. So that's the reason, that's the thing I want to have here, because I want to just change the moving average type parameter and be able to return different things. So if I click OK, I would have that here. And instead of this using this weekly date for the visualization, I'm going to use the ones that I created here and shows here. And again, I'm able to customize it more, for example, based on the subset that I created. And now it's a time to just show that parameter and be able to just change the value of that parameter. So if I come back to the parameters here and click this triangle and click on the show parameter, and I have that average type parameter here, and I'm able to choose between that, you see that it would just change my visualization. So the user have the ability to choose, and whenever that parameter is changed, it would trigger that field to choose between to return different data types here, and then be able to customize that moving average type. So that's the job of the parameter. So you give the user ability to choose between the moving average types that you created here. It's like that I combine these 3 different ones into one calculated field, and I'm able to choose between those interactively based on this user interface, based on that case condition that I created in that formula.
The first element of the like the syntax case moving averages type. Is that the one that, is that the name we are assigning to that?
It's the case needs a key to choose its condition. The moving averages type is a key of case. It just take the moving average parameter and just look inside that parameter and see if it's equal to weekly, it would return this. If it's equal to biweekly, it would return this. If it's equal to 10 days, it would just return this.
Okay.
So every case needs a key.
Okay, I'm having an error saying that I need to reference to, I mean, that there is reference to undefined field moving averages type. So that means that I probably failed to do the moving averages type.
Did you choose the name correctly here?
Yes, but it's not showing up as purple. So
Can you just remove it? For example, let's say I'm just going to remove this, and if I just click on M, it would just automatically show me this. So can you see that?
let me try. So what is the first thing that you typed?
I just, because it's it starts with M, I just put M here, a bracket and a M.
It doesn't show me.
So do you have that parameter here, this moving average here on the parameters?
Oh, okay, I didn't rename it. That's the problem. Okay.
Yeah.
I realize. Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you. Any other question or any other comment about creating the parameters, creating these calculated fields, and give the user ability to choose from these three different moving average types that we created here? And here I have, for example, I could just customize more. Here, if you click on this sheet one, probably you see here, just remove this one. And here in the insert, choose the parameter moving average type. And click OK, it would just show me the weekly. So if I just choose the biweekly, it would just automatically would be updated here. That's also a good thing about the parameters. Whenever just the user changed that, it would just customize the visualization and all the calculation behind this visualization automatically. It would just trigger all the calculation automatically, and the visualization and all the information that you put into your visualization or dashboard would be updated automatically. Any other question or comment about this? Okay. So we just created that moving averages, and we gave the user ability to choose between those type of the moving averages that we had. The last thing that we will go through into in this section is comparing the measures. It's possible to compare the measures by creating the parameters. And for example, we could just create a new parameter as a date and be able to slice that date parameter. For example, let's say I want to just create a map of the COVID-19 cases across different counties in a specific dates that I want to choose, and give the user ability to be able to choose from that list of the dates that I created. So I'm going to go back here and create a new parameter. And I'm going to choose the name as months or whatever you want to choose. The data type is not a string, it's date. And I'm going to just give the user a list that I'm going to give from the March of the 2020 until the October 2020, the first day of those months. So to put this. So these are the first day of the month that I want to just give the user ability to choose. And I would just create that parameter. So I would just click on OK. I would just create a new parameter here. It's called months. And I would just want to be able to slice my cases in a specific date based on that months parameter I created. So I'm going to create a new calculated field, and I would just describe the syntax here. I would call it a sliced cases. It's months. So basically, I'm telling that if they truncate my date measure into monthly chunks, and if that truncation is equal to the one that I chose from my parameter for each first day of the month that I from the March to the October, return the cases, otherwise return null. So that's the syntax of I created here. So whenever if the date is equal to the what I just put into the month parameter, it would just return the cases. Otherwise, it would return null. So that's the syntax of that sliced cases. Click on OK, and we could create a new sheet. I'm going to create a new sheet here and be able to have this map. I just put the counties into the columns and chose this map here, and it would just show me the counties of the South Carolina. And in order to color these counties, I'm going to
Wait, sorry, can you go over how you got the months for that parameter again?
yes. I'm just going to edit that. I just chose the name for that parameter. It's just months. You can just choose the months parameters. It's just up to you whatever name that you want to choose. The data type is date, because obviously it's a date. And I just chose a list, and I just put this first day of the month. I just put it manually here as a list, then click on OK. It would just created that month parameter. Still, it's not connected to my data set. The connection lies here in the sliced cases. When I'm saying that truncate the date measure into monthly or the monthly chunks, and if it's equal to the month parameter, return the cases, otherwise return null. Yes, I just typed those first day of the month manually. Yeah, I just put them manually in that list. Yeah. And I just put the counties in the columns. I just chose this map here, right there. And then I just bring the sliced cases into the marks, and I just chose the color, and then I'm able to see this and be able to just change that month parameter. Again, I'm going to back to the month parameter and show parameter here. And the user have the ability to choose between different choices here. There are different type of for example, things that you can just customize your user interface for the months. For example, here it's just a drop down or compact list, but you can just give the user ability to choose from, for example, from this slider, be able to change that. And you see that whenever I just change that, it would just change the visualization automatically. We have different options here. For example, compact list is the similar one with what we had for the moving average type, or you can just have from this for choosing the multiple choices here. Or even you can have a slider that might be easier to just drag and just see that visualization here. Any question related to this comparing the measures or a slicing here and create a customized parameter for this map? Any comment on any issue before jumping into the next section about dashboards and actions? Okay. So before jumping into the dashboards and actions, you would see that how we could use some simple forecasting in Tableau. The idea is that the Tableau could give us some options to do some forecasting in order, based on the existing data, forecast the future, to see what would be the trend of some of those visualization that we created in the future. It's simple. We don't have any sophisticated control over what model that we want to use for the forecasting, like for some sophisticated machine learning models like the linear regression or logistic regression, or more advanced forecast models like the random forest or any type of the machine learning. It's just a simple one that the Tableau gave us to just use that for the forecasting. But if you want to just use more sophisticated machine learning models for your forecasting, it's possible to connect Tableau to Python and the R programming languages. That just gives you the whole bunch of the libraries that you can just use for the machine learning and be able to just export the data into the Tableau for the visualization and be able to connect those programming languages with the Tableau desktop, which is not in the syllabus of these workshops here. So the first thing that we will use here is the simple options that the Tableau gave us for the forecasting. I'm going to go back to the sheet one. And in order to enable the forecasting, go to the analysis, go to the forecast, and click on the show forecast. So I'm going to remove this upstate. Filtering, and instead of that, I'm going to use for the forecasting, I'm going to use actual date parameter that we had here, and maybe just break it down into different upstate counties that we had. So that would just create a forecasting for me. Until here, I have the actual data points. And from there, that's the forecast of the next data points would look like. And the bands that you see around that forecasting is about the confidence interval of that forecast. That you see that whenever just we go into the future, the confidence interval would be larger. The band would be larger, which means that we don't have much accuracy for the far future based on the existing data that we have. it is possible to customize some options of this forecasting. If you go back to the analysis and forecast options, you can just tell the Tableau until when to do this forecasting. For example, a year, a month. So I'm going to just continue this forecasting for a month. And the forecasting is chose automatically, but I'm able to choose that, for example, from some additive, multiplicative models for the forecasting, but usually the automatic forecast model would work. But as I said, it's just a simple one may not have really good accuracy just for the sake of the demonstration here. But if you need more accurate or more sophisticated forecasting model, it would be better to use the Python or R here. But because the Tableau is not a forecasting software, it's just a visualization software. So that's the reason why the forecasting options is very limited here. And also, if you want to just show that confidence interval, you can just enable it here. And as you see that it's a 95% confidence interval, but you have the option, for example, to choose the 99 or whatever different confidence interval that you are interested to do. So these are the three different options that are available for the forecasting. And also, we could summarize or describe this forecasting here. If I go back to the analysis, forecast, describe forecast, it would just gives me some information about, for example, which model that I used, and if it was the additive, and also what is the errors, and what are the metrics that I use, and what are the smoothing coefficient that are used for the smoothing of that prediction in the future. So these are some error values that gives me how my prediction have errors from the actual ones. So these are some information about to describe the forecasting as well. Before jumping into the next section for the dashboard and actions, any question about forecasting? Are you able to create the forecasting? Because I needed to just put the dates here, and because it's just really sensitive to the missing values or the null values. So if we have null values from a certain threshold, that would just gives us some errors that it's not possible to do the forecasting. But here for sure, we don't have any null values if we just use the original data that we have. Okay. So the next section is to create the dashboards, and based on the things that we created here, for example, the sets, the parameters, the filters that we created, it's possible to give the user ability to change some of these actions or the customize the dashboard. So we will provide 4 different actions here. Filter, to just give the user ability to customize the filter. The highlights would just be able to highlight some portion of the data visualization that we had here, or change the parameter or change the set that we have. So these are the 4 different actions that we could put into our visualization. So in order to enable those actions, the filters, whenever you want to just enable the filters, you are able to show the filter here, and it would just gives the user ability to choose between those filters that we created here. Or if I want to just give the user ability to customize my set, I'm able to give the user ability to customize the set, because you see that the difference between the show filter and show set is that for the show filter, it would just give the user ability to choose from the ones that I created from my subset. These only 4 different county. But if I want to just give the user ability to customize my set, it would just show all the counties that are available in this data set. For example, choose a new one that we never used that for before, and it would just add it to the list of the upstate counties here. So it's up to you to just give the user that ability. So these are the show filter and show subset that we have to just give the user that action. And for the parameter that we did that before, whenever you want to just give the user ability to change your parameter, you can just click on the show parameter. Here, we had that before to choose between 3 different moving averages type. And the highlighting is that give the user ability to highlight from your 2 different type of the data set. For example, let's say I did the forecasting and I want to just give the user ability to highlight the actual data points or the estimated one. So the highlighted would just be able to, the user would be able to see which part interactively, which part is actual data points and which part is the estimation from the forecasting. So that's the job for the highlighter here. To give the user ability to explore your data visualization more interactively. So these are the 4, sorry.
Sorry, could you show again how do we put the forecast in the
Highlighter?
Yes, in the like right side.
Yes, here if you just click on the forecast here, I'm just going to disable this show highlighter. You can just click on the show highlighter here and it will just create this highlight forecast indicator, and you are able to highlight the actual or and just the estimation. And I'm able to customize that. For example, change the title, or so that's the one that you could just use for the highlighting.
For some reason, I don't have that forecast over there, although it shows in my graph.
You don't have this forecast in the marks?
No, even though I have the like the confidence intervals and etc.
Maybe you just remove that. You can just go to the analysis and uncheck the show forecast and just check it again. It should just go back to the marks, I believe.
Okay, I think it worked now. Thank you.
Yeah. Good, thank you. Any other question about these 4 different actions that we could just give the user ability to customize or data visualization?
Just a quick question about the date. So when we click on the date over there on top, we have the options of year, quarter, month, day, and so on. And then we have again the options of year, quarter. So could you remind me again, what is the difference between the first part and the second part?
Yeah, I believe we had that previous week. The first ones here, year, quarter, months, they are the discontinuous one. And these one are the continuous one.
Okay.
If I click on the date, it will just discontinuous my data points. We just messed up all the visualization, but the way that should be is just a continuous one, which you just need to just choose the second one here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments about these 4 different actions that we enabled here for interacting with the dashboards? Okay. Now we could create the dashboards here by clicking on the new dashboard. And as I said, I believe I just said that previous week, that we are able to have multiple sheets and be able to drag and drop different sheets into the dashboard here interactively. And some other small things about the dashboards and make it more customized. Here you are able to, for example, change the size of the dashboard. First, you need to just, for example, choose you want to just create this dashboard for a desktop user, which means to just work on a desktop, or you want to just customize your dashboard to be able to be seen on your phone. So that's the difference between the size of this dashboard. You can just choose whatever you want. And also you can see the device preview here. And also you can just customize the width or height, or even you can just choose from some predefined size here. So these are some small things about creating the dashboard here. So I'm going to drag and drop the first one, and it would just give the user, create this dashboard here, and the user again have the ability, for example, to choose from the ones that I created or change the underlying subset that I created. And I could have multiple dashboards because I had this dashboard and I had another, sorry, I had another visualization about this map here. And even I could just maybe customize it more for putting in the insert, putting the months here. Whenever you change the months, it would just show up there as well. So you could have multiple dashboards for different visualization, or even you can just have multiple visualization in a single dashboard, similar to what we had last week. And the last thing before just wrapping up the visualization workshop in this week is to combine some of these dashboards together and create a story. So I'm able to create a new story because I have multiple dashboards, and then I'm able to combine this dashboard together and create a story that might be useful. For example, first I show the trend of, for example, cases of COVID-19, and then I'm able to put some of the sheets or the dashboard that I created here. And I'm able to create a new story point by clicking on blank. And again, for example, show the map of COVID-19 cases in SC. And again, put this map here, and the user is able to, for example, follow your visualization. For example, you just show them these trends, and then you just jump into the maps. And again, even you can just jump into more visualization and just tell the user what's the purpose of different visualization based on different description that you might put here. So it's like that you can just combine some of this dashboard or even the visualization individually that you have in a story, and just share the final story instead of the dashboard, similar to what we had last week with the user. So that's the general idea of sharing the stories. The stories also could be shared or published in public with the user. I just put a simple story here that you can just follow that. For example, just see different visualization that I created here, similar to what we had here. For example, different type of the moving averages or whatever. That's the general idea of the stories. Any question about dashboards or creating the stories? Any question or any comment about dashboard and stories? Yes, yeah. about this donut chart, we would have this next week in the advanced session, how to create this donut chart here. Yeah, that's the thing for the next week. But if you are curious to see it, you can I could just share the link for creating that donut chart here with you. Yeah. It's located here. It just described how to create this donut chart. That's the material for the next week in the advanced session. Yeah. Any other question or any other comment about dashboard, the stories?
From what I understood, we can, once we like save the things, we are publishing in Tableau public, but is there another way to save? Because from what I understood, we have a limit at Tableau public to publish.
Yeah, there is a limit, but I believe that's not something that you meet really soon. It has a limit on the size, but unless you just work with the really large data sets, that's really difficult to just meet that limit. But the thing is that the Tableau public could be seen by anyone. Let's say you want to just create a visualization or dashboard and you want to just share it internally within your organization. So that's the job for the Tableau server. Even you can just create a dashboard and nobody could figure it out if it's just created with the Tableau or not. Because it's just created with the Tableau desktop and it's published into the Tableau public, you always see the logo of the Tableau here. But if we had the license for the Tableau server, even we could customize the logo here. For example, you can customize this dashboard for your specific company. So you can just customize that furthermore. Yeah, okay. So that's a job for the Tableau server because we don't have that Tableau server license. So we just work with the Tableau desktop here.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other question or comment about dashboards and stories? So the last section is about the homework. Again, the same data set that you had in the previous weeks for the Tableau prep or Tableau desktop beginner session. So you don't need to download it again. So if you have the data, you can just use the already data that you have. And if you don't have it, you can just download it from this link. I'm going to put it into the chat, this link for your download. And in order to create, actually complete your homework, you need to just create a dynamic subset, fixed subset based on these parameters that are given here, total cases, new cases, calculate tabulated fields or new fields based on 3 days and 7 days moving averages, similar to what we had here for weekly, bi-weekly, and 10 days, and give the user ability to choose from your moving average type. And finally, slice your cases on specific dates at the beginning or end of the months that you create for the month parameter, and also do some forecasting for the trend of the cases for the total and new cases in the North America and the United States. I just did that because to just do some training on the subsets and the filtering, and be able to just confine your data in a specific region based on the filtering and subsetting. And finally, creating a story or dashboard based on the visualization that you created. In order, I just got some questions about how to share that. It's fine if you don't publish it in the Tableau public, it's fine. Just send me the file that contains the dashboard and the story. But if you want to just publish that, it's also fine. We can just publish that and share the final Tableau public dashboard or a story with me, or if you just want to just send me the final Tableau workbook file that you created, just send to me, that would be fine as well. So in order to receive that certificate, you need to just go through this homework and send the final Tableau workbook public, or just share the Tableau public dashboard or the stories that you created at the end. Thank you for your participation. I would just wait a couple of more minutes in case if you have further questions, unless that's we are just at the end of this workshop. Thank you again for your participation and hope to see you next week.
Thank you.
Yes, it's just the same as the previous week that you did. So that's fine. If you just, whatever that you did for the previous week, that would be fine for this week or the next week as well. Yes, it just only include the data points that you just used for the slicing. So it just return your data points on those sliced data, or it would just return null values if it's just not equal to the months parameter that you created. Yeah. It should be exactly at your data points that you used for the sliced.
I had some difficulty last homework to include, I forgot the specific name, but the two axes on the same, I mean the two like labels on the same axis.
Right.
And is there an order to do that maybe I was not doing correctly?
Label, you means that
If I want, for example, to include both the average cases and the, well, I
average
mean,
day, for
both,
example.
yeah, for deaths and,
Yeah.
and then if I want to have all that on the same graph.
You want to just have a dual axis. We didn't go through that, but we would have that next week. But
Okay.
just for the sake of demonstration, you can just have the dual axis and just put this all of them together. So this one is the average cases and this one is the average deaths. So yeah, you can just combine them together also.
Okay, and if I wanted to have on the same scale and put them on, would that be?
They are already in the same scale because they are in the same scale, but this axis is for the average cases and this axis is for the average deaths. They are already in the same scale. Otherwise, because you see that the average deaths are in the order of the 300, but the average cases are the order of the 7,000.
Yeah.
So if they were not in the same scale, the average deaths would be much, much lower, or even can just see a horizontal line for the average deaths. Yeah, they are already in the same scale here.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question or comment or difficulty that you might encountered?
I think there was a question in the chat.
Right. Which ones? I believe I just answered that about the slicing the data. That's the one that you are referring to.
I think so. Let's see.
Yeah, good. Yes, I would just share the recording today or tomorrow morning with you. Yeah, I would just send the recording to all the people that register for the workshop. So yeah, you would receive that. Yeah. Thank you.
And also a question actually about the first workshop that I was not able to do a graph.
Yeah,
Map.
I'm really sorry about that. I would just
Oh,
look
that's
into that.
okay.
Yeah, because I had a lot of backlog, so I would just look into that because I know that I got a lot of questions and some of them I was not able to answer them immediately. So sorry if I just sometimes I answer late or yeah, I missed that your question. So I would just do my best to just answer all the questions and also send out the certificates because I know that a lot of you had a lot of questions about the certificates. I know it's backlogged now, but I would just do my best to just resolve that backlog. So sorry for that. Yeah.
It's okay. But if you had maybe a couple of minutes, would you mind showing me how to do that on Excel? How to do the graph? Because I tried to Google that, and
Which part
it,
was the problem?
I think we were asked to do a how is it called? Crow. I forgot the name, but the map that has the colors on Excel.